Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're so happy to have you here today. My name is Stephanie Sandala. I am Programming and Outreach Specialist here at LibraryLinkNJ, and I'm so thrilled to introduce you to Sarah Hull from Plainfield Public Library. We'll be talking all about genealogy collections at Plainfield and her background in genealogy. So, Sarah, do you want to go ahead and get started?
Sure. Thanks, Stephanie. Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to have this opportunity to talk to you today about genealogy collections at Plainfield Library and how to start one or enhance one at your own. So I'd like to start today with a little introduction about Plainfield Library, a little bit about how our collection began and how it's developing, and then some considerations for starting or expanding your own collection. And I really would love for the bulk of this to be question and answer. So just to get started, I am the archivist and head of the local history, genealogy, and special collections department here at Plainfield. The Plainfield Public Library and Reading Room was incorporated back in 1881, and the first library was actually out of rented rooms, which used to be occupied by the YMCA. And the librarian began a book collection there with books and periodicals. And only a few short years later, the library offered a small collection of books of about 178 volumes. So at that time, the library board solicited members of the community and grew the collection to about 2,000 books. And it was about that time that Job Mail, who was a philanthropist in Plainfield and actually was the first mayor of Plainfield, offered to donate land and a building for use as the public library, as long as other community members also donated money and artwork, which they did. And by 1886, the building was completed and open to the public. And they named it the Job Mail Public Library, Art Gallery, and Museum. So, right from the start, we had a connection of being more than just a public library, but an art gallery and a museum. There were artworks here and also scientific collections that were part of the museum. So then in 1911, Andrew Carnegie donated money for the building of another building. By that time, the original building was out of date and it needed repair. It was too small. So in 1912, that building opened. And by that point, they actually had a separate stack room with 45,000 volumes. So it was really much bigger. At that point, the library took up the entire block of land that we do today. And about 60 years later, once again, the library is too small to accommodate all of the community needs, and it needed repair as well. So it was a bustling library. It was like the 10th largest collection in the state, a huge circulating collection in the state. The children's section was kind of inadequate, so they built this new building, the building we have today. So this building, once they finished building this, unfortunately, the other buildings were razed to the ground, so that Carnegie Library no longer exists. But at the time when it opened in 1968, we had an archive of sorts in the basement. This was secured by a metal cage, and this was referred to as the cage, and items were cataloged as being cage items. And these are the items that became part of the special collections today. And then some years later, in 2002, the first major change to the interior of our current building occurred, and that was the building of the climate-controlled local history archives, where we currently are in now. And just as a comparison, we currently have 1,602 items cataloged in our genealogy collection here in the archive. And when you compare that to only 178 volumes when the library even first started in the entire collection, what a difference. And we also have, in addition to those items here in the archive, special collections, we do have a circulating collection upstairs, and I'll explain more about that. So I started here in 2008, and the genealogy collection by that point was actually an existing collection, either as part of the department special collections, and they were non-circulating, or some circulating books which were located upstairs on the main floor. So before this, the way they assembled this collection It was created from some reference books that were upstairs, circulating books, which were on the main floor, and then overflow books, which were books that were weeded out of the main circulating collection upstairs, but they didn't want to get rid of them. They wanted to maintain them, and all of those came downstairs into the archive. That for years that was just referred to as overflow books, and those books included all different kind of books, not just genealogy, but history books and a lot of books. Also the cage books. So all of those books that were in that cage situation, those became part of the archive, and they're still for years cataloged as cage books. And in the archive here, it's not just genealogy, it's also local history and some other special collections. So there really is a combination of the history books down here. And of course, history and genealogy are so closely tied together. Really, there's a lot of books that we use for both of these things, as you probably know. So in addition to New Jersey reference, we also have these early books that were part of the very early library collections from the 1800s and early 1900s. And these contained things like early published family histories and lineage books that probably we wouldn't necessarily have purchased like today, but they are part of the collection and we maintain them today. So all of these, of course, fall under, in our library, the 929 call mark. And currently we have many of those books, the books I mentioned, the 1600 down here, and a shelf or so upstairs that are permanently upstairs circulating. So also part of this collection is this crossover with our local history collection. So we have things of a local focus, like the Plainfield city directories, our school yearbooks collection, our local newspapers, all things like that, which I think a number of libraries would have. So they're not necessarily family histories or genealogies, but they are resources people use to research their family history. So those are some of the things that we already had, and things which we have and are currently expanding, in addition to publications, topical publications, how to research publications, resources like how to do such and such. We also have a collection of personal and family papers. So one of our largest family papers collection is the Vale family, which was a early Plainfield family, also a New Jersey family. This still continues to be our largest collection of family papers, and that collection includes family trees and genealogies. It does include family histories. We still receive items that would pertain to the Vale family, and then we have family Bibles and date books and diaries and journals and things like that, and those are family history related. We also have collections that are part of our archive for local clubs and organizations, like religious organizations or houses of worship. We have a new collection, well, somewhat new collection that we received of a local funeral home, which gave us their records that date to 1908. That's an incredible collection. We're very lucky to have that collection. And that, as you may guess, really comes up all the time when people find obituaries or funeral notices in the paper and they contact us, and we are able to go to our funeral home collection and get even more information about their ancestor. Of course, we have your other types of expected resources like electronic resources. So we'll have a subscription and offer our patrons access to American Ancestors, Ancestry, of course, Ancestry, Fold 3 for military records. We have Heritage Quest, which we get through the New Jersey State Library, Jersey Clicks, and also Family Search. So one thing that we did do was apply to become a Family Search affiliate library. That doesn't cost anything. And so we are an official Family Search affiliate library, and which means that we can offer our users access to a wider selection of records that aren't normally accessible to with the regular account. We also have memberships to societies that offer periodicals. So we have the Genealogical Society of New Jersey, which has a magazine. We have the Family Tree magazine, and that is actually located upstairs, and we get them down here. We collect them down here. Some other societies that we've historically, and we continue memberships in, are New England Historical and Genealogical Register. American Ancestors has a magazine. The New York Genealogical and Biographical Records has a journal. There is an organization called the Afro-American Genealogical and Historical Society. They have a national and a New Jersey chapter. We are new members of that, and we will be starting to receive. They have a national magazine and a New Jersey magazine. We expand our collections. So some of the projects that we do to expand our collections, and that I offer as examples of that you could do if you are a library that already has a collection. We create indexes. So we have in the past started a loan program with local churches. And they would loan us their books of memberships or church records, births, marriages, and deaths, and other kind of member records. And we had volunteers that would index those. So although we weren't able to digitize those ledgers, we were able to index them, and then we can provide access to those ledgers, which were returned to the churches through our index. We also have Bible records, which were loaned, but we also now collect Bible records. So we are able to scan those because those are typically only a page or two, and index those. We created indexes for items we already had in our history collections. So for example, annual reports for local organizations or membership records for local clubs and organizations. Before we had our yearbooks digitized, which is like literally last week that happened, we created searchable indexes for the names in those yearbooks. So all of these indexes we put on our website, and it just makes them easier to find when people do, Google searches and things like that. One of the other things we started, it's been a few years, but was new, was creating surname files. So if people came in to do research on their ancestors, we would create a surname file for that family name. We would put our research in there and the contact information for the researcher. And that allowed us to contact that research again if we found anything else. But also, if a different researcher came in and happened to be researching the same family, we could reach out to the previous person and say, hey, can we provide your contact information for this new person? Another thing which we've been doing for years is obituary clipping. So we, for years, have been clipping obituaries from our local paper, which is the Courier News and the Star Ledger. They have since stopped our receiving of the Star Ledger, so we're no longer doing that, but we still do the Courier News. And this actually just came up recently with one of our attendees, James. So we're also now doing so many obituaries don't appear in the paper anymore, and they are appearing on funeral home websites. So we have 3 local funeral homes that are most of our Plainfield people would be using. So I'm now using our Archive It account to crawl those websites and pull those obituaries so that we have them captured with our Archive It account. So also a way that we enhanced our genealogy collection, about over 10 years ago at this point, we started a memoir writing club. We actually had 2 memoir writing clubs. One was offsite at a senior center, and one was here on site in the library, and the clubs met in person once a month. Unfortunately, when one of our previous staff members retired, we were no longer to keep up the 2 clubs ourselves. So we still are having the in-house club, and they still meet monthly. When COVID hit, they met on Zoom, and now we're back in the building and we have a hybrid meeting. But this, basically, we have local or area people, not everybody Plainfield, but area people who come in, and each month there's a topic, and they write a memoir, a memory about that topic, and we share them with the group. Some people do donate those writings to us, and we keep those as a collection. Another way we've sort of enhanced our program, our genealogy program here, is we started a genealogy club. This was a few years ago. and this met on site. And we basically had a kickoff meeting where like about 35 people attended, and we just kind of asked what people would want in a club and proceeded from there. So basically, the club meets monthly. When we met in-house, we would have a speaker come in. Maybe they would talk about a research tool or how to do research, finding vital records, where records are in New Jersey, that kind of a thing. And then COVID hit, so we moved everything onto Zoom, which has been wildly successful for us. So we still have, we try to do each month have a topic. We have Zoom is wonderful for that because we can have speakers who wouldn't normally be accessible, maybe because of distance. So they wouldn't be able to come here because they don't live in New Jersey. And we're able to get some really great speakers talk to our group about all different topics and all different resources. Something else that we do for programming is we have library resource programs. I'm sure lots of libraries do this. So we'll have a staff member who shows people how to use Ancestry or Family Search, but also more than that, how to start your research here at the library. A recent program was how to write a family history profile. And that was all on Zoom. And we have those recordings, we make them available. So one of the things we do is I mentioned a lot about having all this on our website. And I'm not quite done yet, but I would like to show some of the things we have available on our website. So Stephanie, I'm going to share my screen at this point. Okay. I'm going to actually do this correctly. Okay. So, okay, very good. So right now, this is just our website. Our website is very customizable. I actually manage all these pages on the website. So I could do what I want essentially. So many libraries that have a genealogy component will have something on their library website announcing that so people can find that easily. And this is really a nice stop for people who want to come here to do their research. You'll see the link to the Memoir Club and the Genealogy Club. We talk about a way for people just to get started, offering tips and the videos that we've done. So here's our video on how to take first steps in your family history. A little bit of a description about what we have. Those records, indexes, and transcriptions I mentioned. Pardon me. And some other Plainfield resources. I'm reminded of one of the things I did forget to mention. One of the donations to our archive some years ago was from when the Courier News closed, and they gave us their photo morgue as well as a ton of vertical file and obituary clippings. We have a literal file cabinet of the newspaper obituary clippings and some biographical clippings that the Courier News librarian painstakingly clipped and dated and put into little envelopes. And over several years, we had a very dedicated volunteer index all of those. And so that is another way for us to get that sort of first stop that people do, which is to try to find obituaries for their families, family members. So another thing I would show you is we put all of this together in a collections index. So all of this is on top of our public access catalog. So we have our history and genealogy. And again, I can't stress enough how hand in hand these two things go. So of course, the city directories, it's here on the local history tab, but we use that for ancestor and, family research all the time. We have our yearbooks, newspapers, all our personal papers and manuscripts. An unusual thing that we have in our archive here is Plainfield Police and City tax ledgers. And these are all manuscript ledgers that were maintained by the city going back to 1883. And they are everything from police blotters that you might see in the newspaper with arrests to lost dogs to permits for business. And then, of course, all the tax records. And so these have been digitized. We're currently still digitizing them. And we do have some indexes made for those, but there's like almost 300 of them. So that's going to take a while to do. Um, we also have a special genealogy tab where we have that obituary index, our Bible records, how people can access the census here at the library, the funeral records, and the surname files that I mentioned. One of the other things we do um, is we have compiled a list of our area cemeteries and funeral homes, and these go back in time. So we have all of the cemeteries that were here going back into the 1800s and 1700s. They don't exist anymore, but it's possible that this was helping an ancestor at some point in time. And this list helps research as well as it does staff. So let me go back. I just wanted to show you that really quickly, and then let me go back. So I just wanted to show you our web presence and how helpful that is, that if you do have a collection, one way to really get the word out is to make sure you have that web presence. So if you're starting a new collection, and if you've got to the point where you want to start a collection, you've probably already considered a number of reasons to get you to that point. So like, why are you starting the collection? How will your community benefit from the collection? Really, what questions have you been receiving that have brought you to that point? So I'm going to share two documents. And this next little bit, I really pulled from some of these documents, but they're important considerations. So you want to understand the ethnic, geographic, and demographic background of your past and current community. It's important to have both of these past and current community recognized. So for reasons such as your past community, because people who are researching their family who lived in Plainfield in the past, we need to be able to accommodate what resources we have of that past community. Versus the current community, which is researching their ancestors who may not have been from Plainfield. And so we are looking at resources that are not even New Jersey. We have many people who are in Plainfield now who come from other countries, or they come from southern states or Midwestern states, and now they're in New Jersey. So all of these components will help you create a collection scope. So much like when you're creating, if you're creating a local history collection scope, you want to create a genealogy collection scope of what you will try to accept into your collection and what areas you want to build, and what things you really don't need to maintain. So for example, some of the lineages that we have, we don't really use those published family histories. And I wouldn't normally actively get those today, but because they were probably part of the original collection and they did pertain to people who lived here maybe 100 years ago, we will still maintain those. And another consideration is we also have the space to do that. So before another consideration is communicating with other area libraries, historical and genealogy societies, local government offices, houses of worship, funeral homes, all of those places to find what is available. So if you're in a library consortium, maybe another library has a resource that you might use, and your patrons could get that through interlibrary loan, but maybe not. Maybe the item is a primary item that you would want in your collection scope. So you want to get a copy of that for yourself or provide access to that yourself. Are online subscriptions available at area libraries that are in your consortium so that people can go in and use? Do you need to make sure you have your things available, your electronic resources available remotely? All of those are important considerations to who will be using your resources. So last but not least is professional development and staffing. So all staff is key to all of this. We are incredibly lucky to have a part-time librarian who's been here for a while on our staff, Jane Thoner. She is essentially the genealogy librarian. It is not only something she's incredible at, but it's her personal interest. So she's a genealogist, and so it's something that she loves to do. So for her to be able to bring her interest and her expertise to the library is incredible. So whereas maybe other staff could answer a quick question like an obit lookup, Jane really handles the serious or extensive genealogy research. So we're really lucky to have her. Not everybody has that. Someone who is just interested and has been doing this a while. Also, we are our library director right now. She is also a genealogist, so we have our administrative backing for this collection. But if you don't have those things, you want to be able to offer your staff professional development opportunities. So one of those things is just part of NJLA. There's a history and preservation section, which a number of us here are members of, and we could tell you that there are genealogists as members and always willing to help answer questions and troubleshoot with other people. So things to be considering in terms of a collection, do you have the space for a separate collection? Again, personnel, budget, do you even have the budget to have a collection? And in terms of space, future growth. So where do you see your collection? Is it a physical collection that will be expanding? Are you going to be providing specialized electronic resources? And do you have the budget to do those things? When it comes to budget, one of the key questions is what can you access already from your library or elsewhere? So I mentioned a lot of collections that we had that we by just having volunteers, I shouldn't say by just having volunteers index them. It was a huge project. But by indexing the collection items we already had, really increased what would be considered genealogical records. So I will, let's see. Okay, so I recommend creating a getting started guide for your library and a visiting guide. So what patrons can expect to visit, what can they do remotely versus on site. Genealogists come from all over to Plainfield, and sometimes they will plan to be here for many hours or a whole entire day sometimes. So we're lucky that we do have the reference room, the local history or Plainfield room for people to come in and they could stay there all day and do research versus the main floor public access computers, which have a time limit and require a guest pass. What will the fees be for printing or photocopying? How do they access microfilm? All those kind of guide questions that you can have a FAQ on your website or in an email. Okay, so I want to put into the chat those two guidelines that I got a lot of this information from. The American Library Association has a division called the Reference and User Services Association, and they provide two guidelines, guidelines for developing and maintaining genealogy and local history collections, and guidelines for instruction in genealogical librarianship. So let me put that in the chat. And then I thought I would just finish up if people are interested, and maybe this is a question. So the first one is the guidelines for history collection for genealogy and history collections. And these are PDF link. These will be linking to PDFs. And then the other one is for librarianship. All right. So I know we want to leave plenty of time for questions, but I thought I did want to speak a little bit. This will just take a little minute. Some organizations people could look into. As I mentioned, one of our big programs here is our genealogy club and getting speakers for that. So we use the Association of Professional Genealogists, and I'll put these links in the chat. That website offers a directory, and you can search by topic, resource, location, and some people will come on site and some people will do remote. There's a Genealogical Society of New Jersey. They have a list of professional genealogists on their website you can contact. There's the Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society. Again, there's a national and New Jersey chapter, and on their website, you can contact them for speakers. And of course, there are local or county genealogical societies. So Union County doesn't have one. I'm in Union County. Bergen County does. They have a nice website with a lot of events, and you can kind of steal speakers from them. Monmouth County has an excellent website. They have a speakers bureau on the Monmouth County Genealogical Society website. And then also there's just NewJerseyGenealogy.net /societies, and you could look at all local and other county societies. I don't know every county that has one, but that's a really great list. So I'm going to see if I could copy and paste that whole thing in the chat. And then, that work? That's it. So I'd love to answer any questions that you might have.
That was wonderful, Sarah. This was so
Oh.
much good information. I wanted to say that there were so many things I didn't even think about, like, people coming in and accessing things at home versus like remotely versus in the library and like different policies. So that was really great. So
Oh,
that was something I didn't
thank
think
you.
about.
I'm glad you found that helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, so did the funeral homes we approach, or did we ask them for their collections? Well, what happened with that? Uh, well, this was lucky for us. We have been communicating with the particular funeral home, which was the Runyon Memorial Funeral Home. They had multiple locations. We have always communicated with them for information over on and off over the years. And then what happened was the elder owner was retiring, and he had all of his records in their garage. 80 linear feet of records in his garage. And so, yeah, right. And so he called us and just said, we know they're valuable. We're moving. Will you take them? Would you want them? And we did, and we wanted them. And so we uh, we packed them up. Me and my coworker Jeff went to his house. We packed them up in boxes as neatly as we could. Some of them were really horrible, as things you might expect to find if you kept things in your garage for a long time. And the things we couldn't carry, they delivered in a hearse to the library. Yeah, that was fun. And so we just had them for years, and it took many years for us to go through them, rehouse them. And we had another dedicated volunteer, and she would come in and they're indexed now. So that's online. That's how that happened. We didn't solicit that donation, but we did get that. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So I guess I don't know. Is there anything else? I could put my email in the chat, I guess, and then people could also email me.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to put them in a chat or you can unmute yourself. I'm also curious if
Oh
anyone
yeah.
else here has genealogy collections at their libraries, and if they're similar or different. So feel free to share as much as you'd like.
Is there an outline? Well, we do. So we actually have a whole program about that. I don't think I actually haven't. Yeah, let me see. Jackie, let me write that down, and I can send a link out, and then maybe Stephanie could send that out. What I can do is put the link to the video in the chat.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. So let's go. All right. So I'm gonna put the link, and then I can also attach the handout. So here's the video link. This will go right to YouTube. And then let me get the handout.
This video link looks amazing, just looking at the preview of it. So I cannot wait to look at this later. Thank you,
Okay,
Sarah.
you're welcome. I'm going to copy the link for the handout also. Uh,
Okay.
then I don't have to, then there we go. This is just directly to the PDF and that'll go. Jane did this a little while ago. This was a really well-received program. This is the hot thing now, is writing a family history profile. So this at
Mm.
least could get you started. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, this looks amazing. Oh, thank you for this too.
Oh, Bill, yep, absolutely. In the archives room. Our archives room is absolutely more local history. I showed Stephanie earlier. I'll do it again now. So this is it. This is a room I'm in. Directly behind me are actually the genealogy rows. And right here on the is the beginning of an exhibit we're doing. That'll go up next week on shopping in Plainfield. And so this is an old hat box from one of the early department stores. And so, Bill, as you know, all these things kind of go together. The history and the genealogy collections just really merge together. But yeah, we have clipping files, photographs. Absolutely. Yeah, newspaper microfilm was recently digitized. Excellent. Yep, our early newspapers, we have that microfilm digitized. And the current news we get through ProQuest. We also have historical newspapers available through them. I will say we do have staff access to newspapers.com Publishers Extra, and we do recommend that to researchers if they're coming in and they need to do a lot of work in the early courier news. We recommend, you know, if you can afford it, it's $20 for a month. It might be worth the $20. Well, if there's anything else, I hope that is me, and I hope that's good. I hope that means I've already answered your questions, right?
Yes, I'm just
Um,
catching up on the chat. Oh,
okay.
this is amazing. The North Jersey History and Genealogy Center at the Morristown and Morris Township Library has books in the original 13 states and a few settled in the Midwest. They have 10,000 maps of the state, which is amazing,
Yeah, it's
actually.
incredible.
Yeah. A wide variety of manuscript collections of the Morristown area, city directories from across the state, Manhattan and Kings County, mid 1800s to 1900, Morris County newspapers, Daily Record, 1900, North Evening News. Yeah, that's really great too.
Yeah,
I like all the access to
yeah,
papers. Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of what you were
yeah,
saying, Sarah. It kind of is sometimes hard to find obituaries in the papers now. I've
yeah,
noticed just from my own personal experience. So I'm glad you mentioned like it really is like you're looking at funeral websites a lot of the times for that information.
yeah. And if you
Um,
don't have an archived account, you can also just you can send the email. You can send the web address to them, and they will crawl it. And you can get an account, but also maybe have a volunteer staff like check those weekly. I know James. We were just emailing about this very thing like last week, I think. We refer people to the North Jersey History and Genealogy Center. We refer people to Newark Public Library all the time. We definitely try to recommend whoever comes in, if we can't assist them, to try to recommend like the public library or society, historical society that would be able to help them. And so, yeah, James they have an incredible collection up there, like really, um, yeah, just incredible. Thank you, James, for putting that in the chat.
yeah, yeah, I appreciate that as well. Yeah, does anyone else have any questions for Sarah or questions about genealogy collections in general? You're welcome to unmute yourself or put a question in the chat. I know, Jackie, you had asked a question earlier, not to put you on a spot,
Oh,
but know that you have like a huge, archival and history collection there in Atlantic City. So is it similar?
we have we have a lot of yearbooks and AC directories, and of course the AC Press and different newspapers from around Atlantic City. Most of our papers date back to 1872 to present day. Our microfilm is pretty much from 1895 for AC Press to present day. We try to keep up with that.
Yeah.
But we started I started an AC research club which now meets twice a month.
Wow.
And we just do like genealogy and how to, a lot of them want to know, a lot of people that come want to know how to preserve their family history. So
Yeah.
we do a lot of that as well. So it's been fun. We also have a subscription to ancestry.com. So we let the general public, like, well, researchers that come in, I have research days on Wednesdays, and during the AC Research Club, they can use ancestry.com for different for research tools like Fold3, newspapers.com.
Yeah.
We got the worldwide one. So
Nice. That's
so
fantastic. Really nice. Yeah, these things go together. The history and genealogy just goes together. When when people are researching their ancestors, you need to research the history of whatever location those ancestors were from to know what's going on. I do see it in the chat. The name of the newspapers.com extra was Publishers Extra. And so the Courier News, which is our local paper, is only available through that expanded Publisher Extra version of newspaper.com. Yep. Good. You're welcome.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. And I'll put that in a follow-up email as well. And Jackie, thank you for sharing. That was great.
Thank you.
Anyone else has any questions or wants to share about their collections, you're welcome to, or any other questions for Sarah. Yeah, this weekend was a great presentation too.
Thank you. Oh.
I think I do have a question for you, Sarah, though.
Okay.
So did you mention that, are you the only one who updates or maintains the website that you showed us earlier about the genealogy collections?
We have a web team, but I'm the one who does those pages. So we do have two other people who work with the website, but I do handle most of it, and I handle all of the local history and genealogy pages. Yeah, we are now our website. It's robust, but it's a little out of date. So it's not responsive website. We have some updates we need to do to keep that user friendly. I don't know how that's going in the future with whatever we decide to do, but as of now, I'm able to keep it up to date with what we want to have on it. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like what you were saying. I think a website presence is really helpful to have in these situations, but it's so hard to sometimes have the staff to maintain it or just the time or resources. So that was really helpful.
Yeah. When I started here back in 2008, I was grant funded and part-time, and I actually worked, the only official hours I had were with the IT department. And then that is when I learned how to we use Dreamweaver. So that's when I learned how to do that. And I was doing that. So I still do that. Even now I'm full-time, officially an employee of the library. I still do the website stuff. It is tremendously helpful. We have so many people who, especially when they're just starting out in genealogy, they're Googling names, they're putting their ancestor name, and that's it. And whatever comes up is what comes up. And it's the web results that are captured in that. It also lets us, do the Google search on the website, which is nice. All of our PDFs are searchable, so those come up in web searching. It makes a big difference versus when we have things just in our digital content manager or our public access catalog.
Good. That's amazing too. I just another link in the chat too, so I will share this link with everyone as well. This is for the Caroline Rose Foster Center, Foster, North Jersey History and Genealogy Center. Sorry, I'm like butchering the words, but this looks amazing. I wanted to come visit. This is an incredible resource, really. So yeah, just thank you for sharing that too.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's nice up there.
Oh yes, James, I will definitely reach out to you because I would love a tour. So I will, yeah, again, I will share all this in the chat afterwards as well, but this would be amazing to stop by and take a look.
Well, I'll throw it in too. If anyone wants to come over to Plainfield and see the archive and the research room, I'm absolutely happy to give a tour to anybody. We do that. We absolutely would do that.
Oh, that's awesome. I'd love a tour too. That's when I do a statewide tour of anyone's like collection. So if anyone else has any collections, I'm happy to stop by. And if anyone else has any questions or comments or feedback for Sarah, we're happy to, listen to what you have at your library in terms of genealogy and local history. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for the positive feedback too.
Yeah. Bill, thanks. Yeah. It is a pleasure to work here. I don't take it for granted that we have this really excellent archive space. So thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to stop by and visit that. You mentioned the exhibit coming next week with the hat box. So I do want to see that. So
Oh yeah. So one of the things we actually started this year, well, we didn't start this year, but we really made it a point to get it done every month, is have a new we do donor. So in the lobby, we have a flat case in the lobby, and what we try to do is every month we do the previous month donations to the archive collection. And so we're right away getting that stuff out there to the community, like, here, you could donate stuff too. What do you have? And then in the reading room, we do 2 flat cases. And those will be up there for a month or maybe 2 months. And that's where these 2 are going. So this will go up next week, and that'll stay up through the end of the year. And then we have those, that's our department stores. But we've done other topics, other collections. It's a really great way to make sure that our collections are being highlighted and publicized. More than, we have a big lobby wall case. And so we'll do one very big exhibit in that once or twice a year.
that's awesome. And I think department stores is a really good topic too, especially since like your retail has changed so much over the years. And that's just a really fascinating
Yeah.
subject to think about.
Yeah. I mean, there was a Bamberger's here, a Macy's, a Sears, Tepper's, some others. And so it's nice to get, where do you get hat boxes? You get hat boxes. I mean, I guess you probably do. People get hat boxes when they buy a hat, but it's not common, I think.
That should be an amazing exhibit.
I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or put any questions in the chat. We're happy to stick around for a bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and as a reminder, I will be sharing all these resources that everyone shared, that Sarah shared, and that James shared throughout the chat. So we're sharing those with everyone afterwards as well.
Natalie, thank you. Thank you everyone for attending today. I really appreciate that you took the time to attend and just listen. So thanks. I do hope you found it helpful. Yeah. Stephanie, thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited to be able to participate today. It's a great series of programs you're doing.
Oh, thank you. And this was wonderful too. Like, with so much good information about the yearbooks and, about everything. It was so helpful how you're organizing your collection and like making it accessible for people. It was just a really great presentation.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Well, thank you guys again for being here. This was wonderful. And thank you again, Sarah. And I will be sure to visit soon.
Excellent.
Oh, I'm glad you found it helpful. And yes, I'm glad you're looking forward to the resources.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are so many good resources. Like, I have the ones bookmarked already with so many genealogy organizations, which I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
So that is extremely helpful. So that's fantastic information.
Excellent. Thanks. I'm glad you guys liked it.
Yes. Yes. Thank you again. And we'll definitely be in touch soon.